Hi, I'm Angela. Welcome to the Brave Bible Study. Before we get started, I would love for you to see where we will be meeting for the entire study. It's a beautiful set built for us by my video crew friends. It's fabulous. When you go to the set, I'll tell you a story there, and then I'll see you back in just a few minutes. Several years ago, the art teacher at my daughter's school asked if I would accompany them on a trip, a student trip to Italy. And I told her I would. I'd be happy to go with her and 14 students to Italy. And we had the craziest trip you've ever seen. It was difficult and fun and hard, and I promised myself I will never do that again. I will never be a parent chaperone for another trip like that. But then 2 years later, the art teacher called me again. And she said, hey, this time we're gonna go to London and Paris. Would you like to go with us? And my daughter, it was her senior year in high school, and she said, Mama, please go, please go. And I finally decided it's the chance of a lifetime to be with my daughter before she heads out to see the world. And so we went on the student trip to London and Paris in January. It was freezing cold. It was beyond freezing cold. It was raining and sleeting and snowing on us the entire trip. We were bundled up like crazy people for the entire 10 days. We're trying to go through the elements to see the art and to see all the things that are in each city. And in both cities, we stayed in hostels, you know, these little places where students stay, and they were far from the cities and 2 and 3 subway rides in, and the subways were never running, and so it just started really difficult. The whole trip was really difficult. I have to tell you, I travel almost every weekend, and this particular trip to London and Paris goes down as my all-time worst trip of my entire life. It was so awful. But maybe no day was worse than the Tuesday we were in Paris. We woke up in our little tiny hotel that morning, and we bundled up, and our tour guide gets us on 3 subway rides, and we finally get to our destination that Tuesday morning. And our destination was the Louvre. And we were thrilled. We were at the Louvre. We were going to go inside, and it was going to be warm inside, and we were going to stay there for 3 or 4 hours, and I was going to see the Mona Lisa, and I just couldn't wait. And so as we huddled outside waiting for our tour guide to come and give us our tickets to go inside, I'll never forget watching her as she came across the piazza there to talk to us, and she said, I have some bad news. They're closed. And we said, what? She said, they're closed, but only on Tuesdays in January. So we were like, you have to be kidding. We can't go in to see the Mona Lisa. We can't get out of this weather and go into the Louvre. And so the tour guide, she puts on her thinking cap. She's trying to decide for us what to do. And she decides we will take another subway ride or so to get to the Champs-Élysées. Well, you probably already know the Champs-Élysées is one of the most fabulous streets in all the world, and it's not exactly the place for students to go shopping, especially the high school students. But we get to the Champs-Élysées, and the weather is awful. But if you've been there, you know that at the end of the Champs-Élysées is the Arc de Triomphe. And so I had about 5 students with me, and we have our umbrellas, and we're huddling in the rain when the subway dumps us out there. And I said to them, well, while we're here, since we really can't get any shopping done in these high-end stores, we have to see the Arc de Triomphe. So we put our umbrellas down because we were forcing ourselves into the wind. And it's raining and pouring and raining. And we're trembling as we get there. And finally, I have my whole little group of students, and I said, look up, look up. And they look up, and I said, do you see it? And they said, yes. I said, take a picture. They take a picture, and we run as fast as we can into a little cafe to have hot chocolate until it's time for us to go to the next place. That's how we're seeing Paris, just like crazy people in this awful rain and wind. So we meet our tour guide at the appointed time, and she gets us our next stop and our next stop. And I am not kidding you. The next place that she took us to was, was the Eiffel Tower. We arrived at the Eiffel Tower in hurricane force winds. It is so windy. It is so cold. It is raining like cats and dogs. And we get to the Eiffel Tower and no one is there. Because it's crazy to be at the Eiffel Tower in weather like this. I mean, no one's serving hot crepes. There are no strolling violinists. No one is selling berets. No one is singing lovely French songs to you because no one else is crazy. But here we are, and we huddle underneath the Eiffel Tower. We're soaked to the bone like your socks are wet inside your shoes. It's so wet. So we're standing there, and I'm thinking to myself, well, surely the Eiffel Tower is closed. This weather is so bad. But it wasn't. It was still open. The Eiffel Tower was still open, and then some crazy person in our group decided we were still gonna go up in this thing. And the elevator is on the outside of the tower. So we huddle in with the students, and I have my daughter, Taylor, here, and the wind is blowing so hard, the elevator, you can feel it swaying in the wind. And it's trembly and swaying, and Taylor turns her face in toward me, and she buries her head underneath mine, and she says, "Mom, it's like we're on the Tower of Terror." And it was. It was like the Tower of Terror. And so we go up these 2 elevator rides in this crazy weather, and we get out, and the whole thing is swaying. And you can't even really see Paris because it's fogged in, and it's spitting snow everywhere, and the whole thing is swaying, and the signs are So we take some obligatory pictures of foggy Paris, and we huddle in little groups in the gift shop, and we buy every Parisian little souvenir that we can find, and in order to waste our time in the gift shop so that we can stay warm and out of the elements. Finally, someone said, "It's time to go down." And well, I don't want to get back in that elevator, but we had to. We had to get down one way or the other. So we finally get all the students down. There are about 35 of us, and the kids have the videos to prove this. It was like my kids were reporting from the Weather Channel. It's the kind of wind that was turning your umbrella upside down. They were soaked to the bone. We had to walk to the place to catch the subway, where it's unbelievable that we're even out in this weather, much less that we've been up in the Eiffel Tower. We're finally inside the warmth of the subway. And a couple of the teachers are standing together, and I'm standing with the teachers, and we whisper to one another, "That was crazy, what we just did. Should we have done that? Should we have taken all these students up in the Eiffel Tower? Oh my goodness, what were we thinking?" And we stood there and we talked, and we were frozen, and we were chattering, and we finally decided we did the right thing. It just came to us that for most of these kids, for most of us on the trip, one day in their lifetime, they were going to see the Eiffel Tower. This was the one day, no matter what the weather, they were going to be there. And so it seemed like it was exactly the right thing for the one day that they would be in this most beautiful, amazing spot, that we would take them up as high as we could take them to see all that they could see so they could take it down inside themselves to remember for the rest of their lives. That on that one day, they saw the Eiffel Tower. Well, as we stood there and we decided and we began to shake our heads to one another that we had done the right thing. This is one day for a lot of students. And we didn't feel so dumb anymore. Even though water was dripping from our hats and our gloves and from our socks and our shoes, we decided that, no, in fact, we weren't dumb. And we weren't silly. We weren't wrong to do that. And we decided we were brave. It was brave to take the adventure. I've come to decide that about my walk with the Lord too. You know, we just get one lifetime. One lifetime in all of eternity to live it for God. And I get to decide, will I live as a fearful woman? Will I focus on my weakness and my struggle and my insecurity? Will I just spend the appointed years that I have focused on my questions and my weak places? Or will I live this lifetime for the glory of God? Brave. In the next weeks that we have together, I've come with some of the insecurities and weaknesses and struggles that have been mine. Some today and some that I've dealt with in the past and some that my girlfriends and I have talked about for years. But with every single struggle in each of the weeks that we'll be together, what I'm praying is that you see God. That you see God come with the truth of who He is, and that He will shout to you, I am your answer. If you will put your trust and your hope and the weight of your believing into my character, there's where your hope comes from. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this study. You know, tonight, if the Lord helps you to think of someone, call your friends. Say, hey, it's gonna be a fun study. It's called Brave. I want you to get in on it with me. I think we will have an exciting 6 weeks together. I know God's gonna show up in the group where you are and in the message in the study. And I am praying above all these things that knowing God and who He is makes you brave. I'm glad you're here.